Good morning. We decided to start the recording here because Michaela was about to begin to explain something for us, and I didn't want us to miss it. There's a few others that are going to trip in and out today, and there's a few things that are going on, but I will really want to hear this because in addition to all that, I wanted to hear from Michaela today and hear from Dorien perhaps on their project that I got to see yesterday. I mean, I was familiar with it, and I know I'm being real nebulous about whatever the hell this is. I'd rather have you tell that story. Um, it, it's wonderful. She took my experience in Telos and she turned it into, what would you call it?
It is like epic storytelling. It is a storytelling with really magnificent music that Dorien created, and I don't know. It's about half an hour long, and we put there some beautiful pictures to depict the scenes of your experience, and yeah, we've been working quite a lot on that. We were doing some things all over again because we were too perfectionistic. But yeah, it was great fun. It was great fun. I'm not sure if we will be able to do more of this because it was a really demanding project, like on many levels. But still, we had so much fun, and I think the outcome is something we can be proud of. Yeah. So I invite people to have a look at it.
I'll share the link for it later in this broadcast, of course. But I had heard what you had done before, the project that you and Dorien had collaborated on, and it was in your language. I knew that once you were finished with it, you wanted a broader audience to be able to experience it, and so that's when this last version was your effort to do it in English. And I know at first you were reluctant because you didn't think your English was that good, but I'm telling you, it's amazing. Between the music and the visuals and your narration, this thing is polished. So, on one hand, I'm not disappointed, but I would certainly like to see you guys produce more things like that because, again, it was amazing. And within like a 30-minute window, wow, this was really compact. It wasn't an hour and a half, it wasn't 2 hours long. And man, the story got told. So I'm going to stop rambling on because there's lots of others. And I really want to hear what Michaela has to say anyway.
No, I just want to thank you so much. You were the great inspiration that started it all. And I think it was 2 years ago when I heard your story and I got interested in all about Inner Earth. And then I felt like I could transform it into some art project and to storytelling. Then I realized that I have this friend Dorien. Maybe he can say hi if he wants.
Yes. Do you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah, great. Hi, I'm Dauriel. I'm from Slovakia and I'm a friend of Michaela. Well, how can I contribute? And I'm not really sure what to say or what to talk about.
Well, your contribution in that production speaks for itself.
Thanks.
I'm sure there'll be opportunities. If there's something that occurs to you, just offer it up to the group. But you should be recognized for your effort because the music was amazing. Thank you.
Very much. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's just an incredible talent, and that was the original idea, as you say, Lowell, to bring these stories in our language, because in Slovakian language there are not much resources about this topic, and I feel like I'm kind of getting back to it. I'm planning to do more storytelling for people here in Slovakia. Because I think that's my place. That's something that is truly something I have to do. That's important at this time. So, and we will see.
In my opinion, this is not coincidental. Focus on Inner Earth. surprise. If any of you have ever heard the podcast Journey to Truth with Aaron and Tyler, I met these guys a couple years ago at one of the conferences, and I've been on their podcast a couple of times. Dave's been on their podcast. But over the last 2 weeks, was it 2 weeks? They were trying to educate everybody on inner earth. And they've been spending a lot of time on it. We hear more efforts and more dialogue about the UFOs that are in the sky and aliens from off here. And Tyler and Aaron reminded us, hold the phone. There's a whole strata of civilization here on the planet that we should be connecting to. And so I saw their first one, and it went almost an hour and a half long, and they did not cover what they wanted to cover. So when they got close to the end of this particular broadcast, they said they were going to tack on another one in a week, and they would add some more things that they just didn't have time to cover, but they thought was necessary. And they did. The second week, they brought in some of my interview with them. And by the time you got to that part, everything that they had talked about kind of led up to that moment. It was like when Paula was writing her book and didn't have any idea who I was. All of a sudden, she was writing about this environment that certainly seemed like it was there. And then when she was finished with it, voila, here's a guy that's been there. The second one was amazing. And so I was compelled to reach out to them and let them know what I thought about it, because I have a vested interest in the accuracy of information about inner earth about that goes out there, what the intent of the producer is that putting this stuff out there. And then I really want to measure their heart space to see, why are you telling me this and where's it coming from? Well, these guys checked off every one of those criteria, and they did an awesome job with so much information on inner earth. At least it was in bite-sized pieces. So for the uninitiated, there would be triggers in there that you would pick up on. You might not get it all at the first pass, but there were things that made you curious about it and certainly made sense. So bless their efforts. It's the reason why I'm focusing on it. Would I like to have more interactions like Dave does with BES? Of course I would, but that's not what I'm here to do right now. My connection is with inner earth, and I can tell you for certain, is there any question in anybody's mind that the Lemurians and Telos don't have communication with things that come on and off the planet? Why do you think those shrouds are over Shasta? It's just hiding craft that's coming in and out of Telos. So I'm telling you, one day soon, everybody is going to put all of this together and figure out what we're going through. So I'll stop now for a while because I'd really rather hear somebody else. But inner earth is a trigger for me right now, and it seems to be for lots of other people. It makes me feel good that others see what I see. Great. We're finally here.
Yes, definitely. About the extraterrestrials or beyond Earth sentience, as you call it, I always kind of feel it is there, it is like a kind of normal thing. But when I found out about inner Earth, now that's what was exciting, the things that are below our feet, the things that are, inside. Also, when I was in my spiritual practice, when I was sometimes in a harder season of my life, I have never looked up to the heavens. I always looked down for some reason. And I thought it was looking down to Mother Earth, but then I found out that there is much more, So definitely speaks to me. But I would like to give space to someone else now.
Okay.
Katarina, hi.
Hey there. Yeah, well, what can I say? These days are really interesting for me because as we are talking about the inner earth and how everything is putting nicely together finally, and it will be in a short time, making more sense for more broad audience, I would say so. I had a beautiful experience for these past 3 days, quite a transformative one. Because as Michaela is usually inside the earth, she knows I'm up the up. And for me, it was really moving, the connection with the primordial mother waters inside of the earth, one of the part of the great holes which are inside and holding the wisdom of the mother earth and basically of the cosmic divine mother. And the connection with that place is still just grounding down, to be honest. And it was really, really deep. And then somehow it started to make sense with the messages what I was receiving lately about how everything it's in correct, I say timing, because it's the pulse, the correct pulse, which is basically orchestrating everything around, and how we are called to step out from the shadows. Everything it's called to step out from the depth into the light and put everything in right order and to be connected and making a beautiful sense to us. And as this is happening, it's basically also the consciousness and the memories, deeply locked memories of the Gaia opening and reopening again. So basically, it will be much more easier for us now to reconnect with the deep knowledge which she is holding and allowing us to move with her into the healing and deep knowing, which will be happening quite soon. And I believe a lot of people is experiencing it even now. So that was really beautiful, and seeing how she's basically, it's already running, but still I can just feel it, how she's taking a deep breath before it happening, like opening the memory and opening what is closed. And basically I'm just looking for the words, to be honest. All the changes what are happening now and will be happening in really short period, I would say. So it's just supporting the fact that she is basically getting much more alive, much more open what is happening to her, and opening the memory, the consciousness what was locked. And this is connected also to the inner earth, because it's everything going from the inner earth on the top, on the above. And it's beautiful when you are looking into it. It's something but basically your mind cannot bear. You can just feel it and see it. And then you are meeting the people like you, Lowell, you, Michaela, and other people, and you are putting the pieces together, and it's making a beautiful, beautiful picture, what is happening, what will be happening, and what the possibilities are. And the last message I was receiving mostly was just for me, but then this I felt it's more like for us, that basically the consciousness of the light is basically spreading from the inner earth on the top, and it's connecting with the divine source, and basically everything, it's uplifting. And it's for us the time to listen our inner voice and to go in the places where we need to be, live what we need to be, because we were waiting for quite a long time to be on the right place in the right time, and then it's basically triggered everything in this chain beautifully to make it all this happens. So yeah. That's what I can just contribute.
You know, that light energy that you're talking about, we know where that originates. It originates from our central sun and hits our sun, and she modulates it to, the entire solar system. We think it just affects us. Well, no, we're part of a larger thing. And anyway, I was watching Suspicious Observers, and they've been talking about getting to grand solar maximum. Well, did you see what happened a few days ago? There is a shift taking place on the sun right now. So when you see coronal holes, typically up to now, you see them north and south of the equator zone of the sun. If you saw what happened this week, that changed. It flipped. And so now there's a coronal hole in the middle that
I saw it
goes
this
almost
morning.
from the middle of the bottom quadrant and the top. It was massive. So you felt over the last 2 days these waves of that solar wind coming in our direction. But if you have any idea how big that is, it was going to last for days. And here is where the sun's magnetic pole is flipping. You think we're far behind? All I'm trying to say is just get ready, because this energy is shifting. Now we recognize it because we're sentient beings and we're tied to that electromagnetic energy. I'm just trying to put some understanding to it. So when you feel these things and you don't know what they are, here is what it is. And man, we're just riding the earth like a bucking bronco. See if you can hang on for 8 seconds, because here is what is going on. My God, all of these catastrophes that are going on. There was another one in Mexico. There's a hurricane that hit Mexico. When's the last time you heard that? And never mind that. I lived in Florida on the Gulf Coast for a long time, and it was typical that you got ready for hurricane season every year. When was the last time you heard about hurricanes coming off the Pacific toward Mexico? I had never even heard of such a thing until a few weeks ago when they started to come up then. And did you see what devastation it left in Acapulco? It pretty much wiped the city out. It's just, people look at that to the degree that it did damage and how it affected their lives, and don't see the bigger picture on what all this represents. Anyway, time for me to turn it over to somebody else.
I was this morning watching the coronal hall you were mentioning, and I was like, oh yeah, it's happening. It was for me like basically the picture what I saw before when I was merged inside. And I was like, oh yeah, it's happening, just be ready. And I just can feel that this time it's starting to be really valid, because like 2 years ago, the guy just told me, be ready what is going to happen. And just, well, I'm just looking for the words, because in Slovakia it's quite a funny word, but yeah, hold tight. Yeah, well, that would be the easiest translation. Hold tight and be ready what's happening, because it will be really huge. And who will be, let's say, relaxed and seeing the bigger picture, then the person will know what to do. And the people will be full of the fear, and also then obviously will be struggling. But my point is that as the memory of Gaia is activating, and she is activating also her powerful healing resources for herself, this is obviously happening. This is the regeneration process, and that's beautiful in some point. For a lot of people, it's terrifying, I get it, but that's the point of the person. But from the bigger picture, is beautiful, and there is nothing to be fear of.
That was perfect. I have nothing to add to that, because it's exactly right. Thank you so much. I'm just delighted to hear somebody else share exactly the perspective that I understand. So thank you. Who else? Maybe Paula, because typically you need to bail before you have to, maybe. Do you have something you want to contribute?
No, I don't need to bail today, but I'm so glad to be with everybody. And what's coming up for me this particular week, and probably last week as well, has been, it's so nice to see some of the teachings that I have been exposed to and drawn to. Two of the teachers that I have, you know how you listen to a YouTube and something resonates with it, and you just listen to it over and over and over again. You know that there's something, you have to digest this, you have to get it into your subconscious mind to apply it. So two of the people that, and I'm come back to them now, is Neville Goddard and Florence Scovel Shinn. Both of them are occultists, right? From the good old days when occultism had made its heyday, right? The golden age of it, and then died in World War II, and that's another story. But going back to those teachings and focusing, keeping the end in mind. What is it that I want to see? Yes, there's all kinds of circumstances out there, and you don't have to be Pollyannish and not recognize them, but okay, this is happening as an opportunity. Now, what am I going to focus on? So what they do is they say, you know, what you want. And I think this group here, we know what we want. We know we have inner earth in our consciousness and our minds and our heart. And I am maintaining my focus on that as the opportunity. And what's manifest is just a byproduct of what has to happen to get to the new. And so I'm so grateful that you know, Spirit has guided us all to our unique teachings and perspectives and our intuitive guidances. And now it's really application time, right? It's almost become our armor in all of this. It's become our weapons. Like Florence Scovel Shin, when I was listening to her recently, and she said this, she said, I have ways ye not know, I have weapons ye not know, and I have channels ye not know. And she said, applying these mysterious ways, applying these mysterious weapons, and applying these mysterious channels, I find my way to the best. And so I think that's what we're doing. And it's great to get together and reinforce that with one another as we move through these really interesting times that we knew were coming. But let's face it, once they're here, it's like, wow, right? It's still kind of a state of wow. So again, gratitude in being with you all and focusing on inner earth and keeping that as our end goal.
Thanks. Well, I know Irene will have something, but before I go there, I want to see if Brian has something that either you want to follow up with after last week, because I know we were just getting started in your journey. What can you tell us?
Yeah, well, it's been a kind of a quiet week for the woo here, but I think it sort of comes in waves, right? You have to have some processing time. I had mentioned like the latest had been just the colors in the sky, the rainbow, that type of thing. And I was looking back through photos and I was noticing what I never noticed before. So colors. So it must be my perception. Like, so how do you share that with someone? You go like, share this, like, this is amazing, this picture, but I might be seeing something different than the other person seeing it. And so, but yeah, that's continued. But like I said, it's been quiet for the woo-woo as we process things, which is good sometimes. One thing I did think about, I wanted to mention I caught Dave's podcast, which, you know, that was pretty awesome. I love to hear people just go all out and just lay it out there, and he did.
It's his turn to do that type of disclosure. Dave has been gifted some knowledge that he's protecting. There's some stuff that he's been given, and it takes a physics mind to understand it, that will benefit us from, I don't even want to begin to talk about the things that he shared with me, because that's for Dave to talk about. But he's got some tools for us all that when the right time comes, he will. But it's more about people getting in alignment first, and then we'll worry about the things that Dave wants to talk about. But I said all that because in the course of Dave's experience now, he belongs to some organizations of scientists and physicists, and they understand, many of them work for SpaceX and NASA. So he has a fundamental understanding of, the government's participation in all this. And as such, what you heard him talk about yesterday or the day before was a result of some collateral that's been made available. It's available to the public, that has now been just kind of channeled to his group. So when you hear about what our efforts are, I look at it now like this is a wonderful marketing campaign, and it happens to be for the military. I recognize those components and the words that they used and the glossing over of all of this on where we're going with this space program and what they really want to do with it. Dave just called it out for what it was. And he wasn't using anything that wasn't available to the public. It's his responsibility now, in his mind, to help us understand those things that we need to understand. And when I think about those efforts up in space and who's behind it and what the intention is behind it, I look at it from the BES standpoint. If we're going to go up there and start to muck around with things in space, then I can see why there was a lockdown on assistance to the humans on the planet before. Because now we talk about going off and like shooting a laser at a meteor, not understanding what ripple effect that's going to have somewhere else. We just not think that that wasn't going to scatter things somewhere else. We're like little kids playing in the dirt and don't understand what we did when we threw that rock somewhere. We're like infants again. But man, we've got access to some tools that maybe we're not ready to have again. And all I see is Atlantis all over again. But this time, we're not in a place where outside influence is prohibited from assisting humanity anymore. You've probably seen those videos of white lights over missile installations, and they've shot their white lights and disabled a freaking warhead. So I'm convinced that that behavior is going to continue to keep us from damaging the planet more than we did when we dropped the bomb on Hiroshima and showed what we could do. That's when, follow the timeline, when we saw interactions from ETs, however you want to call that, it happened beginning like in the 40s and 50s. Yes, we started to blow up nuclear weapons in the Nevada desert to begin with, and then we dropped them on other places on the planet. Yeah, it was time for them to step in. And so here we are. In the meantime, since then, our awakening has accelerated. So we understand what's going on now, and we're preparing for what's next. We still have to deal with all this dark residue that's been left over, because these elements still exist. I am in a time when I could be freaking out about those circumstances that Dave's talking about and the people behind it. I take great comfort in knowing that all of those beings around us have our back, and they're not going to let the earth go into that cycle once again. So
Yeah.
sorry, Brian, I didn't mean to cut you off. Back to you.
Well, no, I think that goes back to at least I have like a sense of being led. Like we're being led through this. So it kind of feels a comforting aspect too, even when you know what Dave's talking about, right? He shares that with us. You do feel like there's something behind it all. It's all going to work out. And just like Paula was mentioning about us imagining our future. And I always have a hard time with that because it's like I feel unqualified to imagine what's coming, kind of thing. It's way bigger than I can imagine. Other people might be able to just wrap their head around these things or have visions of what's coming. One thing I was thinking, I was concerned with him during his video, like, retaliation of some sort. Does he need a tattoo on him that says "I did not kill myself"? So just putting that out there, Dave. Be careful. All right. So then, I've heard a number of your podcasts, Lowell, and you've mentioned that you were listening to music before the rock opened up. And do you remember what that music was?
I like a variety of music, so whatever is in my ears at any particular time, I don't know. There's a couple of playlists I have that if, well, maybe I can narrow it down more. Hang on just a second. There's a group I heard a couple years ago called Delirium. Ever heard their music? It's amazing. The the novelty of this group that's lasted for a long time is they've worked with lots of female singers, not just this group, and the music has always varied, but it's a very melodic, almost ethereal kind of music. It triggered on, I think in early 2021, I had heard it and I was just fascinated by it. So I'm pretty sure that was in my ears that day that I was there, because I have a whole playlist of that stuff, maybe a couple dozen songs. And usually when I'm hiking there, that's the music I have on.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, there's nothing to me that seems to raise your vibe or change your vibe like music does for me for some reason. That's why I was just curious what you had on. And yeah, I'll check it out for sure.
Totally in sync with what you tell me. When I look back on my life, the one companion I had through all of it was music. When I wanted to tune something on, I'd seldom listen to the radio because I didn't want to listen to the freaking talking head in the middle of it. I just wanted to hear the music I wanted to hear. So even now, I don't leave it up to Apple to pick my list out of their music catalog, because then I have to stream it. No, I've got about 2,400 songs since I started collecting them back when I was a kid that I listen to, and this is a set that I have. It's varied for sure, but that's always been my go-to, like you, Brian. When I want to just drift off somewhere else, I have carefully selected these songs for either their lyrics or their melody or their beat. There's something about this that is inspiring to me in some way. And when I need that inspiration, these go in and I play that music. You're right. That's what I go to. So thanks for bringing that out. Yeah.
Have you ever considered a social platform for the tribe to sort of meet up on?
We have one. There's a private group in Facebook that we created just for this pod. There's not quite 400 in it, and it was never meant, Brian, to be. This wasn't for the thousands or the tens of thousands yet. It was for those of us that vibrate at the same level. So when we wanted to share information that might be a little more esoteric than everybody else, we didn't just blast it out there on Facebook. We put it inside the group. So I'll find you and I'll send you an invitation to it.
Cool. Yeah, no, private's the way to go for me. I'm in the closet with the woo-woo for the most part with my local community. The last thing I want to do is put it all out there.
That's exactly why we created this group. Exactly.
Just wanted to chime in really quick. You're talking about music, and I had heard somewhere that music is a fifth dimensional experience. So that would make absolute sense that you would turn to that for, upliftment and feeling those really good feelings. Also, one thing I wanted to share, and I don't want to throw any kind of concern or fear, but it keeps coming back. I think, Lowell, I shared with you talking about Atlantis. I'd heard many years ago that Halloween is an expression of acknowledgement of Atlantis going down around Halloween. And I sort of took it with a grain of salt, right? Who knows if it's true or not. And then about a week and a half ago, Spirit kind of continued that conversation with me, and it said, yeah, that's why the colors are black and orange. it's to represent kind of the bombs going off during the Atlantean times. And as I'm looking at some of the photos of what's represented in the Middle East right now, it's like, yeah, it's very black and orange represented. And then a friend of mine who lives in Mexico was talking about celebrating Dia de los Muertos on November 2nd. And it all just sort of like comes together in a sense of logic. If Halloween is the 31st of October and it's representative of maybe a big explosive time in our very ancient past that's in our cellular DNA as a memory, it would make sense a couple days later that we would put together altars for the ones who've died, right? And it's sort of coming together on that for me.
Well, I don't want to take anything away from that for sure, but here's my observation. To think that Atlantis went down on a particular date, or even like a 1 week window around that, it's my understanding that it took hundreds of years for Atlantis to finally sink in its entirety. And that, by the way, was after Lemuria had sunk, and it took hundreds of years. So I don't know that there's a period of time, because again, we're trying to make sense of this in a three-dimensional way. So we're going to try and figure out some ways that in our little 3D limited brains, it's logical to us, but we know the timelines are an illusion that we use here to try and make sense of the occurrence of things. But I don't want to take anything away from the sense that the representation you were talking about, there might be something to that. Because when you talked about orange and browns, and you think about areas that had been disturbed in that way, that's certainly what it looks like.
Yeah, maybe I can contribute something about this, because the celebration of festivals in the cycle of the year, that's very common in the native traditions of spirituality. And the 1st of November, or Halloween, or actually Samhain, which is in Druidic tradition, the celebration of the ancestors. It is marking the season of timelessness, that is until the winter solstice. Because all the cycle is depicting in the mythology the cycle of the sun. So in the winter solstice, the new sun is reborn, then it is rising, then it is culminating in the summer solstice, and then it is going down, waning kind of. And in Halloween, as you call it, it is the start of the season of darkness, and also the season of timelessness, because it is said that the time has stopped, because the cycle is kind of starting here. They were admiring the ancestors like something that was even before time. If you know what I mean.
We're trying to put terrestrial circumstances into celestial positions. And that's, when we say Halloween, well, it typically happens when that phenomenon's in the sky and we're lined up with that sky thing. I get that. But you are helping people kind of see it in a broader sense, instead of looking at the calendar and figuring out where it says the solstice is, because we know that varies because of celestial positioning. It has nothing to do with the time on a calendar. It's our interpretation, but that's what that is. Our ancestors and everybody else didn't have a calendar. They could look at the sky and know exactly when it was, feel the conditions on which, where we were, and wherever you were on the planet, you felt warm or cold depending on the position of the planet and, her relationship to everything else. But yes.
Yes, because, the sun festivals, there are 4 of them, equinoxes and solstices, and they are exactly astronomically placed every year. It is not always in the same day. It depends, But
now, for others,
4...
explain what the significance is of those 4 points.
Yes, so we have Yes, I understand that some people maybe do not know about it at all. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are two solstices and two equinoxes in the year, the astronomic year. And so the winter solstice, then is the spring equinox, then is the summer solstice, and then is the autumn equinox. Those are the four kind of solar festivals that our ancestors were celebrating. And then there are four lunar festivals, which is...
Well, I'm getting to what they actually represent. The winter solstice represents the shortest day of the year. It's the time of year when we have the shortest amount of sun that we experience. Where in the summer solstice, longest day of the year, and then the equinoxes are kind of halfway points between those. So now you can kind of understand the cycle that we're in celestially.
Yes, but it only works in the northern hemisphere. That's also interesting, you know, because when we celebrate the winter equinox up here, the people in Australia, they are having summer, you know.
Correct.
Also, when we are celebrating Halloween here, they have the Beltane, they have the 1st of May celebration of fertility and things like that. So yeah, it's an interesting thing. I could talk about it for an hour.
Well, maybe we'll pick one of these out and that's what you can do.
I don't
Brian,
know.
go ahead.
I wanted to talk about something else, but I think maybe Irene wanted to say something because she was not. No.
Okay, well, let's finish. Let Brian finish his thought, and
Okay.
then we can go back to Michaela for sure.
It was just to add that I came in on Halloween. So, happened to be my birthday.
All right,
That's it.
then back to you, Michaela.
Yeah. And it's actually in the topic, you know, as we are now entering into the season of timelessness. I wanted to talk about time because it is something that I'm exploring very much these days, and especially I came around the Mandela effect. I don't know if you know about that. It is rather interesting thing, and maybe I can share a screen to really show you one random web page that I found about that.
Let me see if I can make you a co-host, then you can share.
Can you see
Yeah.
that?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, so the Mandela effect is called after one thing that occurred, that countless people remembered him dying in prison in 1980s, but actually if you currently look at the history, he died in 2013. But many people could like swear that they've seen that funeral, that they remember the event and things like that. Yeah, and then there are many other, like this is the random page when there is like tens of examples of things that are of such effects. And like here is the Britney Spears in one of her music videos, and many people remember her wearing the headset microphone on her head. Even the Barbie dolls were created to this image with the headset, with the black headset. She was dancing there. But when you look up the the video now, she has not. And then there are the logos. I don't know many of them because they seem to be American or I don't know, from some other country. But this one I remember, for example, right? Yes. I remember the first one. I clearly remember the first one, but actually when you look it up, it is the second one. Then these bears, I don't know. There is some spell, Bernstein bears. Then there is this monkey, I don't know it. Then there is
Curious
this
George.
I also don't know it very much. Also, this speaks nothing to me. There is some change in the spelling. But this one I remember, this is the Monopoly guy.
Yep,
and he was wearing the monocle glass on his eye. But now when you look it up, and yesterday I was actually looking it up in the bazaar, people that are selling the old Monopoly games, and I looked at that box and it was without it. But I clearly remember that it was with it, you know? And then the Pikachu, of course, whoever was hooked on it in the childhood, I'm from that generation. I definitely remember him with the black end of his tail. But now, when you search it, it doesn't have it.
What do you make of all that?
It's rather interesting. And Fruit of the Loom, I also remember this one because that logo originally, I'm sure to have it, there's cornucopia there behind the fruit. But
That's
now
the way
when
I
you look
remember it.
yeah, but now it doesn't have it, you know?
Mm.
So I just wanted, there are many more examples, or this robot has a silver leg that he hasn't. Flintstones are now spelled with another T. It doesn't make sense. Yeah, so there are many examples, you know, there are many examples, and also from the old movies, you know. There is some scene with Tom Cruise who was originally dancing with sunglasses, but now when you look up the film, he doesn't have them. And things like that. Even some footage from the history, some man in the China standing in front of the tank. Now the footage looks different as people remember it. Mother Teresa's canonization. I don't know, like many things don't say anything to me. Whether Mickey Mouse has tail or not, I don't
Somebody's
know.
got a lot of time on their hands.
Yes, you know, and I feel like I was thinking about this, you know, what is going on? And especially what is the moral of the story? What we are supposed to learn from this? And it came to my mind that first thing is that maybe we should admit that this reality isn't real in a way that we think it is real. And the second thing is that we really should stand for ourselves and for what we know and what we are sure that we remembered, you know, because people are sure that some things were differently. So yeah, so I just wanted to bring this up and maybe discuss with you. What do you think about this, if you heard about that? And I think it's funny, you know, because most of my days I live in the border of dimensions and funny effects with time and things like that. But for some people, this might be scary. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, interestingly, I was looking into some of those Mandela effects earlier this week, and there's like I Love Lucy. You always remember Lucy getting in all kinds of trouble. Desi Arnaz walking in the room and he said, "Lucy, you got some splaining to do." We used to say it all the time. There's no record of that ever being said by him. He says, "Lucy, you have," I don't know. It blows my mind because it's like something you heard just all the time. Some of the Christmas songs, "I'll be home for Christmas," "You can count on me." It doesn't say you can count on me. It says you can plan on me. It's like, no way. No one sings it that way. So there's a lot of these, and it makes you go like, what kind of glitchy thing is going on here?
But you know, it seems that we are all in the same track and that reality has changed. Our memory didn't change. We know what we remember. We know what we have been through. But now the reality is trying to convince us that it's not the thing.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it all goes back to, if time doesn't exist, the past, the present, and the future are all quite malleable, aren't they? And so what is the truth other than what you want to create it to be? And then you collect yourself with all those other people that also want to create it in that way. Right?
I see it that way. But when I look back at this Mandela effect, and you see there was a change somewhere along the way. we're trying to speculate as to why the reason for the change. You're trying to influence us in a different way, and if so, then who did that and why? But my point is that somewhere indelibly etched in our Akashic records was that first image. We have seen that before. And so now we recognize the difference and we start to ask the questions. Maybe we just hadn't been paying that much attention to that kind of detail, but we are now. Go ahead, Irene.
Yeah, I like this. First of all, thanks so much for everybody sharing their own experience, because I see it's so tied into everything. uh, there is a like a thread with all we've been sharing. And first of all, thank you so much, Michaela, and Dorien, for creating this amazing story. And actually, you too, Lowell. It's so amazing how this video became a story. But the beautiful thing is, it's alive because it's Lowell's experience. But you created kind of a myth of it, but it's a story. It's an a child story, and it's real. And it's so captivating, and it so brings you back into what other myths may have been really true. So I love that dynamic that's going on, that we're can go travel back in all the stories that we've heard, and wow, isn't there some real truth to it? And there is something magical about life that's starting to resurfacing, that's been kind of lost. So that's what I first wanted to say. And then coming to the mandala effect, uh, this is also a beautiful topic, actually, because this is where you can see how our mind registers kind of like a fractal thing. Or you start also when there's some mistakes on in like sentences, and some letters are left out, you can still read it. Some people don't even notice a letter was left out, because the mind starts to fill in the blanks. And so, to be honest, a lot of the pictures shown, I saw them the right way. And I feel it is truly related, and this is so important. And this is how the news can be brought, or you can be manipulated, because once you know, you can be manipulated. How you, like with advertisement or whatever, is with feelings, with colors. You kind of like present a certain reality, and your mind starts to fill in the blank. Oh, this is what they said. No, that's never what they said. They make you believe something. And so, what is important to know now? This is the big part in all of this. It's not that the history changed. It's really knowing when you have a true, authentic observation and a true, authentic thought. So this is where you come. Are you seeing just with these eyes? They're connected to a brain that's kind of like automated, or are you really looking with your true eyes from your heart? When you do that, you really start to see the truth. That's also where you start to see the truth of what people are saying. And this is quite a practice when you see what's going on in the world, because it's a lot of chaotic energy. Like there's amazing light coming in, amazing stuff that starts to surface. And so there's a lot of chaos. You're not always on, even though you have your connection. Sometimes it's really like a big workout to stay no matter how long you've been practicing. I know some of my friends, they can see all many octaves of spectrums of reality, and they need to rest sometimes for weeks in their bed because it's so much. So really, it's really to see. So I hope, so I want to help you understand the mechanism, that it's really, the more you are coming from your heart, the more you start to connect your brain with the truth of what's behind all of it. And then you start to see exactly the right thing. And people can still make you believe something. And it may be confusing, but at some moment it's kind of like it starts to be anchored in your DNA. And this confusion, this confusing information will not interrupt anymore. It starts to be so sharp, becomes so clear, and it starts to stay anchored. Does it make sense?
Yeah, to me, it makes me wonder, at what point did I start to pay attention beyond what I was used to giving my attention to? Just, whatever people put in front of me, I ate up. And there came a point at which I began to see it for what it was. I can tell you when it happened. It happened for me during COVID. So I'm past my spiritual awareness. I'm connected there. But during COVID, when I try to sit down and watch TV the way I used to, I can't do it. Number one, in my mind, the word produced keeps popping into my head. All of this is produced. None of it is real. And what is the purpose for it all? It's so that stuff that they're peppering us and they're marketing toward us in between these ways that they're trying to entertain and educate us in a way that when speaks to their agendas, we just kind of just fall and prey to it. So when I started to see it for what it was, I didn't want to see the commercials. And then when I understood that the programs I was watching were all produced, they're fake situations, except in the programs I did get delight out of was like watching America's Got Talent. Here are gifted individuals stepping up on the stage and doing what it was that God gave them to entertain the rest of us. That is where my heart expands. But any other kind of programming other than that, that's not a genuine human being showing what they were here to do, I got no time for it anymore. I have real trouble even watching a movie to watch now. It's hard for me to watch something where destruction is taking place and people are hurting one another when I can't get past the idea that on the planet, the idea that harming other individuals is okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is also where it kind of starts to tie into, because once it kind of becomes predictable, you kind of also stay stuck in your consciousness or in a certain time space frame. And I feel the natural cycles of the earth. So it kind of ties into what Paula was saying with the Halloween and with the celebration of the death. I feel there are these cycles, like our consciousness is keep on kind of like also recycling until we get it. So I feel all of whatever happened on the planet, whatever trauma, it's still kind of in a kind of a bandwidth or kind of a wave on the planet. And it's every time we enter a certain moment, it's there to reintegrate, to kind of like have a certain little flavor of it. So you can kind of like integrate it, process it, and then release it, because it's still in our memory. It can still hold you to not see the fuller picture. That's why you keep on, certain things keep on repeating themselves until you become, you kind of transcend the time and space. It's related to your consciousness. And then you can release from it. And this is where it's so important, playing music. Like music is kind of transcendent. It's when it's the chords are played in a harmonious way. They transcend the timelessness. They won't stay stuck. Yes, you're being transported out of the stuck system. So you'll be transported out of it. Does that make sense? Even though you're in the body still. Yeah, you become timelessness. That's why I think it's so important that creating art is kind of like an antidote or like a medicine at this time. Because with creating art, no matter it's you express your emotions or a true feeling, to me it really helped. And I wasn't even aware when I was in art school. I wasn't even in art school. I was doing goldsmithing because I didn't know what to make of my life, basically. Like I knew what I saw. That's not definitely not what I want. I knew something again inside of me. It comes from the inside. It's inside of the earth coming outside. And to me, when I started creating, I wasn't even know what I was creating, but I had this interaction with what was coming from within, and I did create an inner earth. And I saw all of a sudden, like it started to communicate with me that there was an inner earth that would start to open itself up. So the outside of the earth would just collapse in a natural way. In the inner earth, whatever was coming in, it would just evolve outward. That was a natural thing. And that was my true information. It came from me. I did not doubt it. Nobody told me. It came from within me. It wanted to express itself. And I think that's really important to, start creating whatever. It can be an emotional thing, or when you're angry, just whatever. It starts there, but at least it's your true expression, your authentic expression, and from there, more information will come to you. It's pretty amazing. That's where you start to interact with your intuition, with the earth, with anyway, with your guides, whatever. So anyway.
Well, here Brian was mentioning spectrums of things that you don't typically experience. You're describing when you finally get in touch with that, and here's what I'm experiencing. Hopefully others pick up on that and listen to it and start to either wonder about what it is that you've got and why I can't experience it, or maybe you were the trigger that came along to help them remember that they could. So Katarina, it looks like you have something to offer.
Yeah, well, where to start? The first thing I would say, going back and just mention Michaela's and Dorien's amazing work, because it beautifully contributes to all this topic. And I had the privilege to hear it not only in Czech and Slovakian, but also in English, and the English absolutely stunning. So again, Michaela, if you have any worries, don't have, because it's great. And the music is absolutely divine, Dorien, so absolutely compliments that. And Michaela, she has an amazing gift to bring the stories alive. She is basically embodying the story, and that's why people feel it. It's something really rare, and she's using all these even when she's creating the statues, and it's transcendental. For a lot of people, they are just listening and they keep be there, and that's something what is amazing, and it's not between everybody. So yeah, definitely continue on what you are doing, because it's you are making the records, the memories alive, and you are bringing the awareness inside of us, and you are helping to remember us, not the past, no, you are helping remember us who we are in the whole universe, and how we are connected, and how everything is important line together. So keep going, definitely. And on the topic on Nelson, it's beautifully how it can be taken from different perspectives, and everything leads to one. And that's absolutely beautiful. And this is happening, as Irene mentioned, basically when you are in center in your heart, and you are connecting the heart, your will, and you are basically in you, completely embodied. Then obviously you know that what you are seeing is basically like a huge reset or editing of the metrics, the glitches on the metrics, and how the system is falling apart. And we are experiencing different levels, multi-layers of the realities of the people who are connected on the earth. Then obviously there will be some differences also on the physical side. So when you are seeing the logos, there will be changes, but you know what you know, and that's important. And now it makes a sense because last couple of days I was receiving just messages again, like it's necessary to be anchored inside of us and trust what you feel, not what you see, but what you see and feel with your eye of heart, and be connected inside, be in the truth, be the truth. And when you are in this, then obviously you will be not doing what you have been using doing, let's say, looking at TV news, somebody or something like that. You will be just, making your life completely, because your system would be quite overloaded with these things, they're not real. And this morning, actually, I was on Facebook. After 5 minutes, I left the Facebook again, because last time we were talking with Michaela, how I feel everything is quite fragmented, falling apart. And there is a lot of information still going inside your consciousness, and the people doing that, and there is advertisement and all these things. And when I was thinking about that, just tuning on that, I just feel like it's not my reality, and I just don't want to be there. Or when I'm there, I'm just because I'm connected with friends in certain groups and I'm talking with them, and that's absolutely great. But I'm not spending a time on the social medias, because I just feel it's missing a little bit the energetic field of yours. And because the unconsciousness mind, it's picking up really quickly, even what you are not noticing, then you are obviously in the loops. And as Irene mentioned, the certain situations, well, when you are thinking about that, everything is quite programmed in the collective field. And you can choose when you are in some state of awakeness, then obviously you feel, that basically there is this program, there is this trauma, let's say, this comes on top, and you can work with it, you can release it, you can bring it to love and evolve. Yeah, that's about it, the cultivation. But a lot of people, basically, they are still in this in this pool, and they are experiencing what they are experiencing, and they are in their reality. But we are in our reality because we are moving apart, and that's where is the clash, when we are feeling that there is some glitch, and there is a glitch because it's a separation of the realities. So that's basically that's it.
It's I use social media as a tool. And that's why the private group that we set up that we were referring to a little bit ago, we use it to reach that group. When I log in, especially to Facebook, and you just start to see, what's in your feed, I'm puzzled to why people want to play these things out on social media. Some of them go into long diatribes about the situation that they're in. And really, do you want to play this out on social media? It's not anything that I would do, but I'm a little more private about things in the first place. And I don't want to hang out whatever's going on out there only to perpetuate all kinds of comments that weren't going to really benefit me or the collective in the long run. I have an appreciation for, and I want to commend all of you that are awake a little bit more, that you've shown a great degree of responsibility when it comes to sharing the stuff that we knew from a genuine and authentic perspective. Michaela's latest and Dorian's latest production is an example of how we're supposed to influence others' thinking. And I say that because when I first had this awareness, and it was in me to share what had happened to me, because this wasn't just for me, I struggled with it, because in my mind, I'm a sovereign being, and it's not up to me to influence others. And that's when my guides went, whoa, hold it right there. You do know what these circumstances are, and you are the one that's supposed to influence others' thinkings. So we just need to be mindful about the things that we share and make sure that we're not trying to force our experiences and our mindset on somebody else. When we do that, we hold ourselves up as an example so that other people can use their discernment and weed out what was meant for them and discern, what you find is truth and what you find is not truth. And you go from there. I gotta say, and Dave's last broadcast was the best example of that. Wasn't all pleasant information to hear? No, not from my perspective. And it's one that I tend to shy away from. But somebody had to say it. And Dave has a perspective that's knowledgeable about all of it. He is in the loop on the things that are going on in the background. So when he speaks about these types of things, I know where that's coming from. And he's not, making these things up. So he does that in a manner that's palatable. When I do see these diatribes that, other metaphysically minded and spiritual people are talking about online, I see them drifting off in areas that don't resonate with me, or they're put in terms that makes perfect sense to them, but not to the rest of us. And when Dave and I first met, we were talking about how do we communicate these ideas we're having in terms that everybody can understand, including the uninitiated, when we use some of the words that we used back then, which we had grown to understand. It didn't really benefit anybody else because they couldn't figure out what we're talking about. So when Brian mentions woo-woo information, that's kind of my reference, is that we began to talk about esoteric information that, resonated, and we know that there's truth to this. But that was only because we were vibrating at such a level that we understood these concepts and it sunk in. And again, it was basic information and took time to assimilate all of that. And as you assimilated, then the other things that contributed to your knowledge came along as well that filled in those little gaps. So in the end, you had this tapestry of understanding that you weren't going to get until, Brian came along and added his little piece. Oh, well, now I see that perspective. All the more reason why I am blessed by the tribe that showed up, that shares their experiences, because they fill in my gaps and they just give me comfort that somebody else sees this higher perspective the way that I do. Thanks.
Thank you, Lowell, for holding this space. Yeah.
My pleasure. Go ahead, Brian.
Irene had mentioned earlier, she was talking about seeing with the heart. And that would have been I would have dismissed that as craziness for many years, right? And now, I'm guessing all of our woo-woo experiences are coming from seeing with the heart. I'm thinking that our brain, we've always considered ourselves, our brain are our senses. And I think our brains, lately, I've been thinking that it's like a governor on a car. It limits its speed, it limits its performance. I'm thinking our brain it gives us our human experience, what we consider a human experience, and you're going to be in that box, that human box, by using that brain. But you're going to have it's amazing. We have sight, vision, and hearing, but it's a tiny sliver of the light spectrum that you're to be able to see with. And there's so much beyond that. If you're in your head space, I guess, your brain space, the same thing with your sound frequency, right? It's a very limited. So I guess it goes back to what Irene's saying. Our senses can come from somewhere beyond that brain that has been our limiting governor. And that's a big thing for me to wrap my head around, just because I was not in that space for many years.
I'll let you respond, Irene. Go ahead.
Yeah, for me, it's always been, excuse me, for me, it's always been almost my instinct. I would feel unsafe in my brain. It's like, why am I angry and I'm not angry? Why am I responding a certain way and I know it's not me? Like, it's just weird. So in a very young age, I was seriously in kindergarten, where I realized that, wow, what's in my head is not me. And who is me? I felt it's in my heart. So I always wanted to feel safe in my heart. And from that, I received information or like a feeling. It's not like, for me, it didn't start that my guides are talking to me. It's really a feeling. And this feeling then start to translate in this apparatus of the physicality into a sensation first. And then later on, in words or in a sentence. But it needs to go through this alchemical process within me for it to become a word or but it started for me with a feeling. That's why my feelings are the truest thing, and they are connected to your ear. Once that starts to develop in the brain, it needs to develop. Like you're born as a baby, everything needs to develop. It doesn't matter if you are getting now this insight, with an adult body, we're recycling every time. But it still needs to develop. But the cool thing is, since we're connected with our DNA, we're interconnected.
Yeah.
That's
My
why.
perception is that our brain is an interpreter. It's nothing more than that. It's not really a repository of any information other than the things that are stuck in our memory. When we access what's in our Akashic records, that's when our third eye has opened up, because our heart space has connected us, and we're in a position that we're in alignment, and we can connect to wisdom way beyond ourselves, and then our brain can bring it in and interpret it. But it wasn't there. It wasn't buried there. If people think that your Akashic records are buried in your brain, again, it's just a processor. That's what we use in this particular carbon avatar. But when we activate something beyond our physical five senses, that knowing, that feeling that all of us talk about, that's when we connect to the information that comes in. And we never really can put our finger on where it came from, but we know it was true.
And that's the beauty then, that like truth can be very relative. We just saw it with the pictures. But the truth here is just truth. It's not even a belief. You just know. You just know. But then knowing sometimes is not enough. Sometimes it's also to bring an understand. When you start to have an understanding, to me, because I had a lot of the time in knowing, but when I have understanding, then I can start sharing it. Because with only knowing, how can I explain a knowing? When you do have
Well,
a
that's
feeling.
a gift. There's two things there. There's one, you understanding it first, and then having the gift to be able to put it in terms that others can understand, because that's a gift.
Yeah, and then
Yes,
also, oh, excuse me. And then also then having the knowing that sometimes you need to speak something and you can trust that maybe people won't understand it now, but you do understand that it just takes a while, and it's not up to me when that seed starts to grow, but it is being planted. So that took a long time for me for not to say anything, because I felt very responsible. If I would say something another person wouldn't understand right away, that I would be making a mistake or I shouldn't be saying things. So it's also like a growth where you just know, yes, it feels right to share, because I just know at a certain moment, maybe I'll never be able to share in this time space that we're creating anymore. So it's an opportunity to share, so it can be out in the ethers. And it may go through a butterfly or through a person seeing this video. It's not up to me, but I just know I needed to share. Anyway, it's like with
Thank you.
everybody.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that about the rationality, that is only just a tool, and it's not entirely reliable. I feel like this past 2 years actually taught us much about relying on our inner feeling and our inner wisdom, and making decisions from our instinct and intuition rather than from outside information that's coming to us. And I was thinking about, you know, the people that are relying only on rationality. They are just disadvantaging themselves, because it is not that hard to persuade someone with arguments if you are sophisticated enough. And then you can turn the whole direction of a person if he's relying only on rationality. But if someone is really relying on what he's feeling inside, you cannot persuade him in any way, you know. So that's what I wanted to say.
That's a good point. Go ahead, Katarina.
Yeah, so thank you. Yeah, well, as Michaela said, when you're only in your headspace, then obviously you are disadvantaging yourself, but also you are disconnecting yourself from the instinct, from the intuition, because when you are in a head, then you are in your unconsciousness mostly, even though you don't know about that. So basically all the programs, all the traumas, everything, it's basically triggering with the situation outside you are creating, because it brings you to realize who you are. A lot of people are afraid to dive deeper, but that's another topic. And yeah, the brain, it's a wonderful tool. Sometimes I'm calling my brain just like 5D printer or something like that, because it's basically like a space when everything is come through the alchemical process, as Irene mentioned, sits, and then I know how to put it in the physical way, and that's the beautiful thing. And what Irene mentioned, knowing and living it and explaining it, it's almost like a mystical way, because it's really deep experience of yourself with the divine in yourself. And this is basically the way of the mystic. When you know, and then you are walking into the knowing, and then you're living the knowing, and then obviously you can and also bring the understanding to others. And the beauty in that is that the others can pick up what they need for their own evolving from what you experienced, and it can inspire them to the deeper connection with their inner earth, divine, whatever you want to call it, spirit inside of you, because everything is beautifully interconnected. So yeah, that's a beautiful thing.
It looked like you were ready to make a comment, Irene. Yes, no?
No, I just love it.
No?
I just love how everything starts to galvanize, how we're sharing and each with their own quality. It's like it is an alchemical process that's taking place between us, and that feels oh yeah, I remember what I was going to say about this is where our DNA also starts to program, like this default, going back to the mandala, the way we start to see reality. At some moment, we're not going to buy into the untruths, the programming, like the people who are most dominant. They just, even though it's not even true, you still like start to like, oh my gosh, the person who's the loudest speaking or the most dominant person, we're just going to obey to it. At some moment, our DNA is not, it's even in our DNA that is not the leader we're going to listen to anymore. It's not going to help us survive or thrive through the next phase. So that's why it's kind of a reassuring that we're onto something big here. At the same time, we're in it. We're in it. So when you start to feel your impulses, we start to, it's coming from inside, and it's our responsibility. It's our unique free will to respond to it now or say, oh wait, I just will still want to finish whatever I'm finishing. It's your own, and that's the beauty of it. Nobody can tell you what to do. It's only you and your own unique journey, but we're still interconnected. It's just so amazing how your unique journey fits in the bigger picture. It's just
I see these as you straddling and having multidimensional experiences. You are describing things from a higher perspective. when you compare that to your life here, they're two very different mindsets, aren't they? And your mindset has expanded way beyond most of the people around you right now. We're hoping that the rest of the people catch up by either hearing this and being triggered by it in some way, or, you know, their awakening comes at some point. I've watched, I over the last week, when I was trying to figure out, you know, what the hell am I doing here? 4 years ago, I was making 6 figures, having a really wonderful time in executive management in the casino business, and I am not there today. So when you stop, I looked at the timeline of what had happened. I first looked at, because I'd been so curious about the timeline of when, you know, Earth went through her destructive phase, when, you know, Atlantis and Lemuria and all of the circumstances back then. I'm trying to find parallels to what's going on now, and there are plenty. When I remembered that perspective and I'm trying to apply it to now, it's really, it gets to be painstaking to observe the higher perspective things that we do, the things that we get comfort from, that brings us joy, because we understand what's going on here, and that this duality experiment that we're here to participate in can drag us down, because it forces us to limit ourselves to just what everybody else is on the same page with. We are way beyond that, hoping that others catch up. And why? Because we all know that Earth is in her cosmic cycle of her own. And in a very short amount of time, if you paid any attention to the coronal hole discussions we were having earlier today, you know that this phenomenon where Earth pitching into her next phase is right around the corner. And the dialogues we're having now is to help everybody else kind of come to terms with that in their own way. None of us are trying to tell you, here is the way for you to understand it. And if you follow this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 list right here, here's how you'll get there. I can tell you it doesn't work that way. Didn't work that way for me. I can't see it working with any of the rest of the people that are here. They all found their way, but now we all vibrate at the same level. And when we talk about the things that we experience, there's a commonality there that goes beyond what's going on in this 3D world. And that's what we are here to start to talk about, start to dispense. And when I was giving kudos to the efforts that are done, when I thought that the way that we put it out there, I needed to be more mindful of, that I wasn't supposed to influence people's thinking, because I didn't want to, you know, step on their sovereignty and influence them. And that's when I was told that's all this is. 3D is all about trying to influence people. It's just where are you influencing them from your heart space or from your head space? Because if you're trying to help them from your heart space and share your experience as an example, maybe they'll find something within themselves that questions that as well, not to mirror my journey, but to wake theirs up. When I see all the people that have shown up in the tribe over the last few years, and Katarina a little while ago, and I wanted to mention it before, had remarked on Michaela's gifts and the statues that she used to do. Well, in the short amount of time I've been around Michaela, I've seen the gifts that have blossomed in this girl. Oh my God. Never mind, I got to spend time with her in Shasta. So I felt her heart space. I know what she's connected to, and it's amazing. All you want to do is be around those people. They don't really have to say anything. I just need to be in their space. And whatever is radiating out of there, man, I just picked up and carried off with me. And like some of the other things, we don't know when it's coming along. Sooner or later, you know, 3 days later, all that assimilated, and you now you know what that was all meant to do. So it's wonderful to see people with gifts that express the next one. Because when I heard that Michaela said, well, I'm kind of done with the statues, we all went, oh, she has moved on to other things, as evidenced by what we saw this week. So I'm just blessed to know the people that I have. And again, I'm glad to have her in the tribe. Because when we count on those kinds of things, I'm not the guy that's supposed to do that. That's what Michaela's here to do. And bless your heart. Thank you very much. Anyone else have any observations? Man, we're an hour and a half into this today. Go ahead, Michaela.
No, I just want to thank you as always, you know. I can praise it forever, the space you created, the service you are giving to all the people, absolutely generously, selflessly. It's such a great inspiration. Thank you.
I'm just a connector, and I am blessed to know the people that have showed up. They're amazing. I'd like to see what impact they leave behind. So
Yeah, I'm very grateful for that as well, because last time was my first time here, and it was an amazing experience, because in the end, basically, I had a quick flash. Like, Lowell, you are basically creating something that is unseen from money perspective. It's like a new chamber holding the wisdom, but in different way than it was used. You know, not in like a physical space, in concrete place on earth, but more it's this virtual space that we are connected through the earth, like a tribe. And this is something unbelievable value and amazing. And it just started, and it will be growing. I just can feel it, and makes me just like inside jumping like from happiness, because how to say it? What's the words? Yeah, it's like a stream of infinity pouring from the earth and across the earth, and connecting these streams, which are completely unique, all together. And everybody has the right place there, and it's amazing. So thank you for that.
I don't know how to respond to that. I'm just blessed to be connected to that, and watch somebody else just express it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any
all
other
for
thoughts?
listening.
Anyone else before we finish today?
Yeah, it feels just so amazing, and it just keeps on unfolding. And this is where you start to see like it's only just the beginning. And I see too, what really helped me in my life was also to, at some moment, I start to see like I don't feel the rush anymore, like, oh, I'm this old already and I only have this much time. At some moment, it's like, oh my gosh, my life doesn't even matter. In a sense, it's really important, but it's like whatever I do, it's continuing on. So all that I can do is all that I can do, but it's okay because it's gonna keep continuing on. I don't need everything to see accomplished in this lifetime, and it really put really a big pressure off of me, because this is what we learn, to be pressured. And in a way, pressure is good, but if the pressure is kind of like for the wrong reasons, like to kind of put you in a certain mold, that's not right. But if you have like a pressure, feeling a pressure to look, do something big with your life, use it to start focusing on what it truly is from your heart. So you can kind of use the pressure that's on us to use it to really, okay, I feel the pressure, but I don't need to be pressured to go in the same fractal that we're all in, because it's kind of like that's a destructive pattern actually. But use that kind of pressure that's there to focus on your heart and what's truly important. And there may be some difficulties, or you have to sometimes really go through your fears. Like for me, it feels the more I expand, I also go deeper in my fears. And it's okay, because I see now it's nothing wrong with me. It may not even be only my own fears. Maybe it's part of my journey, my own unique journey that I learned from, but also to be of service, that I help, through my body to transcend massive fears that's been in our collective or in myself. And so doesn't matter how beautiful or ugly it is. It has no, at some moment when you're so dedicated, you're on an adventure, and you need to kind of plow through it. There's beautiful parts and there's like ugly parts, but there's no judgment to it. When that leaves, it's only beauty and there's only love.
They're
So
all lessons.
they're all lessons and it's love.
Yes.
It's just
when you express that knowing beyond here and talk about things from a higher perspective than that, here's where we're going to lose people for a while until they get whatever that connection is. You're no longer limited by just this experience. And so you mentioned your fears a few times. That's quite common. And it's, you know, it's not a subject that we should shirk. They're lessons too. And right now, we're all trying to achieve balance, karmic balance, because in order for us to ascend, that has to be done. And so we have to face those fears and overcome them in order for that karmic cord to be dissolved or cut, or however you want to see that happen. But once it's done and we're free of that, we learn the lesson. We saw it for what it was, and we were able to move past it. That's why when fears keep being brought into your, or our perceived fears keep being brought back to us, those are those perpetual lessons that they continue to tell us, that we'll keep learning them until we learn them so that we can release that and move on. But can you tell how accelerated that process is right now? Why is it so accelerated? Because the whole cosmic cycle is accelerating right now, and we're scrambling to keep up. We're just one of 8 billion little critters crawling on the planet, trying to make sure that our vibration matches where the planet is going, and she's going there quick. And it's not like the media and our government is helping us with the signs for us to pay attention to. They've left that up to us. And so that's why we do these things, so we can help bring awareness to others and they can use their own discernment on it. Whatever level of awareness they're at, that's not for me to say. I'm just here to do my part. And so we did that today. Maybe that's a good spot to stop. So thanks for showing up today. I'm going to go back and listen to this when it's up. Give me a couple hours and you'll be able to find it. But thank you all for being here. And I hope I see you again. We're here every week. So have a great day.